Hey everybody, it is Blake with the MangaReloaded podcast, and today I am going to be doing a brief overview of Shueisha's new Manga Plus app. Now, for those of you who don't know, Shueisha is the parent company of Shonen Jump, who themselves just put out a manga app a little over a month ago, so right before Christmas. So, just before I go into any of the details, right off the bat, that confused me quite a bit. I had one of my buddies sent me a message about this because I frankly hadn't heard any lead up to this. I don't know if there was some lead up to this Manga Plus app or if it was just released. I know it came out, I believe, a little over a week ago at the filming of this video, so I haven't had a lot of time to play with it yet. I kind of went through all the basic features on it, and again, this video isn't meant to be so much a review as just kind of an overview of the things that it can do. I think down the road, probably next week, maybe a little later, I will do a comparison of the Manga Plus app compared to the new Shonen Jump app, and just to see how they kind of stack up to each other, because I think they're incredibly comparable, but for the time being, I just want this to be a look at this app from just, if nothing else, a technical standpoint. Now, jumping right into it, the first thing I noticed about it, just based on the format, is that it has a very Netflix app vibe to it. And you may or may not agree with that. I promise as we go through this, the comparison might become a little more apt as we see some of the other tabs on it. But that was my first impression of it. I know I was reading an article about this app, and as I understand it, Shueisha based this on the Shonen Jump app, so technically it should look very similar to that, and it does. They look fairly similar, but I get a lot more of a Netflix vibe from this, but that's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. As you can see, all of the chapters that are on here have kind of a timestamp on them. It says at what time that these chapters were released. And that in itself is one of the major differences between the Manga Plus app and the weekly Shonen Jump app, is that this is a chance, as I understand it, for Shueisha to put a spotlight on more of the different companies that they own. I guess that might be a good word for it, because obviously, like I said, they own Shonen Jump, but they own a few other companies like Jump Squared and some other ones that don't automatically pop into my mind. Obviously, Shonen Jump is the biggest one there, and hence why it gets its entire own app. But the purpose of this app, as I understand it, is to give a platform for more of their companies and not just focus on Shonen Jump. And also, as we'll see as we continue to go through the app, it releases series in a lot different of a fashion too. Of course, I believe it does still have the weekly Shonen Jump chapters available on here, but it also is releasing other series at the same time, and again, we'll see more of that as we go along. And one other big detail about this app is it, at least as of currently, is an entirely free app. So everything that is available on here is totally free. There's no subscription cost like there is with the Shonen Jump app. It is just free. But you, of course, have the option if you want to buy chapters, maybe volumes. I think it's volumes. You can buy volumes of these series if you would like, and then save them on your account on the app and then read them whenever you like. But for all intents and purposes, this is an entirely free app. Free to download, free to use. Everything on it is free. Switching to the featured tab, I feel like this is where you really start to get Netflix vibes from this app. I mean, just scrolling through it, as you can see, it has a Shonen Jump section. It has a Jump Plus section. It has a Jump Square section. And then we have a supernatural section. And just kind of scrolling through, of course, looking at some of the Shonen Jump series that are in here. I know it's not as comprehensive of series, but as you can see, it's trying to represent those other companies that we don't see as much from. Like I said, like Jump Squared, Jump Plus. This is the interesting part. We have supernaturals and we have thrillers, which again, to me, really makes it feel like it's trying to, I won't say rip off, but it's trying to pull inspiration from the Netflix app in the way that that app will have different categories based on how much you're using the app or what the app feels like you're interested in. It'll have its comedies, it'll have horrors, things like that. As you can see on here, it only has those two categories, and then it's divided up by the different companies that own the rights to those series. So I don't know if you use it more, if it'll add more categories based on what it feels like you like, or if that's just all there is. There's just supernaturals and thrillers, which is a little limited to me. But again, it's also an incredibly new app at this time, so I'm not going to judge it too much off of its limited content. So then we switch over to the browse feature, and here's where we start to get into the real meat of this app. Of course, that is the manga series that you have available to you to read. Just kind of scrolling through them all real quick. I'm not really going to read them all off. I mean, you have kind of your standards. There's your Dragon Balls and Food Wars, Hunter x Hunter, JoJo's. And again, looking through some of these, My Hero Academia, Naruto, One Piece, and all your essentials. I'll mention this in my later video when I compare these two, but there is something interesting here regarding the series that are available on this app. But as you can see, there aren't a lot available right now. And I say right now again because this is a fairly new app, so who knows, it might get more series represented on it. It looked like there was only like 30 series, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I didn't really count them, but fairly limited representation at the moment, which again isn't a horrible thing once you figure out what exactly this app is going for, what the purpose of it is, which we're going to detail. I'm just going to pick a random series, Abyss Rage, which is one I've never heard of. As you can see right off the bat, the big thing in big red letters on here is the semi-release, which is a massive part of this app, is that when the chapters are released, they are also simultaneously released in all of the languages that are available on this app, which to me feels like a major point of this app is that for the first time that I understand it, there are languages that this app is available in that have never had access to the majority of these series before. I can't really name them all off the top of my head. I know like India was one. A lot of European countries are getting official translations of series. I want to say Russian was one of them, but a lot of countries that in the past don't get as much series translated into their native languages are finally getting that chance through this app. I know there were 3 countries that didn't get this app released to them because they already had it or an equivalent of it. Those were Japan, China, and I want to say South Korea. One of the Koreas, I'm pretty sure it was South Korea. All of those countries already had a version of this app available to them, but now this is, for all intents and purposes, a global release of this app. And again, like I said, the big focus of this is that as new chapters are released for series, they are going to be simultaneously translated into all the other languages included with this app, which is really a massive deal. Again, in the past, not so much in very recent times, but in the past, a big issue that came with, like, again, a great example is Weekly Shonen Jump, because every week you get new chapters of all the series covered in there. There was almost always a time lag between getting series translated over to Again, in my case, it's English, so there would be a time frame where the chapters would not be officially translated for us. We would be X number of chapters behind. So with this app, it is making series available to you the second they're released in your language. Again, a big deal with this app, but it looks like I picked a bad series to express the next point I wanted to talk about. Let me switch to something else real quick. Let me see. Let's pick Black Clover. That's a great one. Everyone loves Black Clover. So, okay. Here's the point that I wanted to make. As you can see, with the exception of a choice few, there are only 6 to 7 chapters currently available for each of these series to be read. Those being the first 3 chapters of the series and then the 3 most recent chapters of the series. And as you can see, when you switch into the details of it, it will tell you how often new chapters will be made available to be read on series. It will also tell you how long those chapters will be available to be read. So as I understand it, a big feature of this app is that there isn't a lot of content actually available for all of these different series on here. The main goal of it, as it seems to me, is to give you a taste of the series. So again, we give you the first couple chapters, and then you can make a guess based on your own preference. Oh, do I like this series? Is this a series that I would like to consistently read, or I'd like to pick it up? And in the case of on-running series like Black Clover here, it gives you the latest couple chapters that have been released. Again, Black Clover is a weekly Shonen Jump series, so every week as a new chapter comes out, it'll become available on here. But simultaneously, you'll also start losing chapters. So each series will only represent a certain number of chapters at a time. I don't exactly know how that'll translate over to series that are already completed, but again, we'll look at that a little bit later. Just from a feature standpoint, one thing I really like about this app is it does have a favorited section. So, okay, let's switch over. Let's look at Bleach. Here, a great example of a completed series. As you can see, it currently only has 3 chapters available to it, and it even says that chapters will be released every Saturday at 10 o'clock. So as you can see, after so many chapters, in this case, after 7 chapters have been added, it will start to get rid of the oldest chapter that is available. So kind of an interesting way of going about it. I'm actually curious to know how this will work going forward. Will it just be a case of, in the case of Bleach, it'll eventually be a case of, we'll have chapters 100 through 107 available on here. I feel like that's kind of a really odd way to go about it. Again, I don't know for a fact that that's the way it's going to go. It hasn't been out long enough for me to judge, what's it going to do? Maybe it'll be a case of, like it does with the ongoing series, it'll have the first couple chapters of Bleach always available, and then it'll continue to progress through the series. That's interesting. In a sense, it almost turns these completed series into weekly release series in themselves. That's a very interesting way of doing things, in my opinion. Well, I guess that makes sense why it's calling it a revival series. So in a sense, that's a way of making the series relevant again. That's interesting. I'm actually kind of interested to see where this app goes. Again, Bleach isn't a good example for me because I've completed Bleach. It's really one of my favorite series, which that in itself is kind of controversial, but that's a discussion for a different day. But my only problem with this is, and I've seen it in other apps that have ongoing series available on them, whether it be like Netflix or one of the different TV provider apps where you can watch series on them. They have a tendency to have sporadic episodes available on them. So like sometimes you'll just have episode 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 available on there. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head that does that is the Adult Swim app. I don't know how many people actually use that app, but again, that's my solid example for this. But I'm curious to know if they're gonna let that happen, because that almost feels like it punishes people who are just picking up this Manga Plus app. If it's a case of, oh well, only these random chapters are currently available. Sorry, tough luck, bucko. You're gonna have to wait for 10 years when we finally cycle all the way back through Bleach and start over again. Obviously, it won't actually take 10 years, but, well, you never know. Jeez. I don't know. I feel like that's a very odd way to go about it. So I'm really curious to see where this goes from here. But again, back to looking at the features that I can currently see on this app. We'll just also add Bleach to my favorited list, because gotta love me some Bleach. And going back, here's an interesting little feature. Hottest. Yep, no surprise here. My Hero Academia, One Piece, Boruto, Promised Neverland. So I'm guessing this is just based off of number of times that these chapters have been read, which is interesting. One big thing that I really also like about this app is it almost is trying to turn itself into a miniature social platform. But again, we'll go into that a little bit more as we go on. So let's just switch over to my favorites tab. Just look at what I've added so far. Woohoo, I got Bleach and Black Clover. Woo, those are my favorites. I really like that as a feature. Oh, this is cool. You can reverse the chapter order. I guess that's handy when it starts to get pretty long. But yeah, here is what I mean when I said this feels like it's trying to make itself a miniature social platform. And that is the ability of the reader to leave comments on the chapters. And I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. It's definitely different, and as you can see, I mean, most of these are just kind of generic, oh, I love Bleach comments, but this also hasn't been out very long, so I'm sure as time goes on, we'll see more things. Let's leave my own comment, why don't we? Bleach equals best manga ever. Send. Gotta leave some truth up on here, so let's just scroll up and see. I don't see my comment. Well, did I miss it? No, let's try refreshing it. Let's go back and try it again. There we are. Bleach equals best manga ever. For sure. Like my own comment, because I am a piece of trash like that. So, yeah, that's a very interesting feature. I'm kind of curious to know what the main idea with doing that was. I mean, I guess it creates a bit more of a community feel on this app, but at the same time, I feel like to really get that miniature social media / community feel, you'd have to add quite a few more options. Like, again, the ability to friend people or to send messages to other people. I don't know. It's a very interesting feature. It's something different. I can't think of any other, well, there aren't many other manga apps currently available, especially that are using official translations, but that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I see it being kind of nifty for random fans to just leave silly little comments. I feel like there's a good chance that it'll eventually just turn into a little pocket of flames and just people trolling it or whatever, or just fans saying, oh, I love this, but other than that, I don't really know where that's going to go or what the purpose in that is. But again, it might be too soon to tell. They might have some interesting idea to do with it. Maybe they'll do contests based on the most liked comments or something like that. They really could go somewhere with that from a marketing aspect, but I don't know that that's where they're planning to go. Shonen Jump, if you like my idea, feel free to use it. I've got other ideas you could do with that. Just contact me, call me, leave a comment. Anything, inbox me. I love you, Shonen Jump. I love you, Shueisha. Yeah. So yeah, we'll just dig through the guts a little bit. Oh yeah, a big thing that really threw me off when I first started to use the app and I was actually trying to read through it is that it was doing the scrolling vertically, and I'm like, what is this garbage? Are you serious? I was like, is this real life right now? You're gonna give me a manga app and you're gonna have me scroll up and down? But no, you have the option to change the orientation to either horizontal or vertical. I don't know why you would ever do it. I don't know why they would default it to vertical. I think that's my thing. I mean, if that's your preference, that's your preference. Hey man, you do you. But every other reading app that I have ever used defaults to horizontal, because again, it's like flipping pages in a book. But, again, you have that option if you want it. And so we'll just flip through some of the other things. Settings, that took a minute to load, but yeah, if you want to look through the FAQs, you can do that on your own time. And of course, I want to receive updates on my favorites and let me know upcoming events. See, they might have some events in mind. And top comments, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. So yeah, as you can see, flipping to Tokyo Ghoul, they do have different dates. They're different release dates for everything. So, it's very well spaced out from what I can tell for when chapters will be released. So yeah, that's kind of a nifty feature, but in conclusion, I think this is a fairly interesting app. Again, looking at it on its own merits, I think this could be Shueisha could be onto something here. I feel like the concept of literally turning completed series into weekly series again, where again chapters are going to be consistently released and you can read them at your leisure. That's a very interesting way of trying to breathe some life into some old completed series. But at the same time, I can see there potentially being some flaws with that down the road when they're in the middle of the series and you don't have any of the early stuff. So it's like, well, shoot, why would I just jump in and risk spoilers like that? But at the same time, if you start in a timely enough manner, it looks like chapters will be on there for 7 weeks when they're released. I mean, and maybe it's different with the newer series. I know that's what it showed for Bleach. So again, it gives you a good time frame to read things. But from what I understand it, the major goal of this app was to be pushing simultaneous translations and releases of chapters to a more global level, and also making series available in languages where they didn't previously have access to official translations. So I think, if nothing else, is coming from a really goodwill standpoint. And I know I saw something in there where it was talking about how they'll have advertisements on it. So I don't know if they're all going to be Shonen Jump related advertisements or things like that. It's supposed to be a self-sustaining app. And again, down the road, I want to do a comparison of this app versus the Shonen Jump or the weekly Shonen Jump app and see how they compare to each other. But tell me what you guys think. Have you had a chance to download this app and play around with it a little bit? Is this something that you plan to make a lot of use of? Again, I don't know how much I will use it. It's nifty. I'll probably keep it on my phone every so often. I might check it, but I'm not a huge weekly chapter reading guy. And again, when I do read things, I like to read it in long bursts. So I don't like to read just one chapter at a time. I know that's just kind of me. That's just the thing about me. Also, one thing I did notice, it didn't look like there was a download option. So for people who like to download things and then watch or read them offline, it looks like you might be kind of out of luck with this app. Again, there are other options if that's something you're looking for. This looks to be more of a casual weekly reader kind of option. And I noticed they have a few series that are not available on the weekly Shonen Jump app. So maybe that was a purpose there. But again, I'll talk about that in a future video. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel. Again, I'll be pretty honest, there was a little bit of a hiatus in uploads, and there were a variety of different reasons. There's some things going on in Matt's life right now, and things going on in my life, so we missed a little bit. I'm hoping to start catching up on that. I know the day of recording it is currently Super Bowl Sunday, which is the reason why it's just me recording today. But again, on the regular schedule, we upload weekly content. We talk about manga, anime, and all kinds of random nerdy things, anything you could think of. Let me know down in the comments below if this is something that you're interested in, this is something you're going to use regularly, or maybe if you think this is kind of odd, especially releasing this so close to the Shonen Jump app. So there's actually, in a sense, there's a level of cannibalism here because there's a lot of the same things on these two apps. So let me know if you think that's weird that these two came out, or if you have a possible reason why you think that happened. But thanks for listening, everybody. Blake awkwardly ending the video as usual.